Hello, everyone, and welcome to Past the Noise, the podcast that is essentially an open forum discussion. We throw out a topic, or if the case tonight, we're going to throw out multiple topics, and we invite you to join in on the conversation. It is, like I said, open forum discussion conversation. So you can feel free to jump in. You can make a comment in the comment section, or I'll be throwing a call-in link in the comment section from time to time. You can use that to call in and talk to us live online if you like. But either way, we welcome your participation. We tend to discuss the issues that we present from a wide variety of perspectives. So whatever your perspective is, whatever your input is, we certainly welcome that. I am the co-host of the Past the Noise podcast, Elder Michael Hightower. I am joined as always by Apostle T.B. Walker, and there he is. Apostle, how you doing?
I'm excellent.
Good. So, like I was saying, we got some really good topics tonight. We always have good topics, but tonight's really like some interesting, deeper things. So we certainly welcome people jumping in and giving their perspectives. We don't see it as right or wrong. We're just having a discussion. So we're not asking you to agree with us or to disagree with us. Just for the sake of that, just come on in and join the conversation and let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
Whatever the case may be. Now, starting a while back, I can't remember what episode it was because we're up to episode, I think, 28. But a while back, we did a segment on Tom Brady and his marriage to his wife breaking up. It appeared because he had agreed to retire from professional football, and then he went back on the promise, and there was a whole bunch of stuff during training camp. I guess he went home to try to mend his marriage. Didn't really work out. They ended up getting a divorce. And then the news came out today. He's retiring.
He's retiring.
So it's just, it's just the things that we do. That's just part of the human existence, is that we treat things in the moment. Like in the moment, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. And then 6 months later, he's like, that's not really what I thought I wanted that, but that's not what I really wanted. But the funny thing is, I suspect that he does not regret his decision at all. I suspect that if he's saying to himself, if I could do it over again, I'd do the same thing.
He may. You never know, but you could be right.
Never know. Right.
He certainly may look at it like that. I suspect that there may be some soul searching that may come down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Come a little later. When you look at what he's weighed up. Obviously, there's probably more to the story than we know.
Sure.
But I suspect that as hard as it is to believe, for us to look and say, well, I'm sure that it had to be more than that, because he couldn't have picked a career over his family. But that's not some outlandish thing that is not done today.
Right.
And when you look at the question, it's like, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and to lose his soul, right? When you compare the world to the soul, that's major. It's a major comparison. But it's also, we compare that to, there are plenty of people who've made a decision for career over family and have lived to regret it, come to realize. And I suspect that there may be a point where he's going to recognize what he really gave up for what was his dream. And in the end of the day, what we're finding out is that the dream for some people is not the same dream for everybody. For some people, having a great family, that's the dream. But the dream has changed in America. The dream has changed around the world. And the whole goal is really wealth and prosperity and fame. And, how many people are giving up family and all manner of relationships for wealth, prosperity, and fame? What we have to do is kind of wait and see down the road what a 50, 60-year-old Tom Brady is like, now that he's kind of now decided to put himself in a position where he's a father from a distance.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of selfishness that goes into playing a sport, even a team sport, because you do have to sacrifice so much in terms of the people, your loved ones. So there's a level of sacrifice that they all make, regardless of how long they play and not. So there's some of that. And I also think it's sort of, not that they don't grow up, but you're still playing a game. You're still a 40-some-year-old man, you're playing a kid's game. So I think part of that is still, you have something of a kid's mentality, like, this is what I want, or whatever it is. There's a certain level of, not instability, but there's a mindset that goes into to being an athlete, especially being a professional athlete. So I think you're right. I think he might be. I mean, for all we know, I don't know him. So for all we know, he might be afraid of the day, or he might have been afraid all along the day when he would no longer be Tom Brady, the football player. He had to sit. He wake up one morning and I'm not playing football. I'm doing something else. And you've heard other athletes say that. Like, I miss that. I miss being around the guys,
Sure,
with the crowds. I missed all that. So, he might have just kept playing because he was definitely afraid of that. I mean, who knows?
Well, I mean, listen, there's a certain addiction that comes with fame. As we look at fame, as we look around our world, we realize like there are people who just drank and drank and drank. And then, we analyze and we realize that like you can get addicted to alcohol, and then, there are people who, got addicted to fame and got addicted to money. And, we're addicted to shopping. We're an addictive society. And I think one of the things that we don't realize that fame is addictive. And I suspect that just like a heroin addict, that's got a huge amount of heroin, a cocaine addict who's got cocaine all around, probably looks and says, I dread the day that this amount of cocaine is not here. I dread the day that I won't have access to this heroin. I'm sure an actor dreads the day when women won't swoon, over them. So you see the surgeries and you see all these other things and you wonder, hey man, you had 30 years on the screen. Why are you still trying to do that? Because they're shooting in the arm. Because I'm an addict. I can't just be regular. The idea that I went down the street and nobody noticed me hurts me. Painful. I feel it. So the same pain that the withdrawal that an addict feels, I suspect Tom Brady was going through that very same withdrawal pain that his family, just like the family of an addict, struggles and says, are you choosing that over me? I suspect that there are many a child that's looked at their father and said, so wait a minute, you promised that this was the last season. Just like that addict said, I promise you, this is the last time. You won't catch me down at the crack house anymore. Right. I'm sure Tom Brady says, you won't catch me down at the field house anymore. And yet, then you drive over there, it's like, did I see your car parked outside the clubhouse? Yeah, I was down there just throwing some balls around.
Yep. Yeah.
So I suspect that we're looking at an addiction. And we probably don't look at it, but when you look at the type of choices that are made, and like, I know that's going to hurt, but I'm willing to give up my wife of years. I'm willing to give up being in the same house with my children because I need to be able to throw this pigskin around one more year and to hear people cheer for me one more time. That's big. And that's our TikTok generation, right? That's our Instagram generation. There are people who are addicted to the number of likes, and there are girls who were not known, and all of a sudden they're known by everybody. So they can't keep their they can't keep their clothes on because for the first time I'm getting this fame, and now you wonder, like, are you on OnlyFans? Like, why are you going so far, man? I'm hooked. I'm hooked on the applause. I'm hooked on the likes. I'm hooked on the loves. I'm hooked on the comments. All of those things, man. We're really developing a society of addicts, and Tom Brady is really just one of those that, like, I can't get away from this fame, no matter what I see it doing to other athletes around me. I need it. That's a shame.
Yeah. We'll obviously there'll be more news about that. Perhaps we'll see what happens as he moves through the rest of his life in the next chapter, whatever he does, to see what he says about this section of his life and whether he has regrets.
Whether there are any regrets.
Yeah. It'd be very interesting. Man, so speaking of society, man, it's been quite a few violent acts recently in the news, sort of all condensed together, and it's all over the country. It's not like it's one part of the country or just in this city, just in this place. You had the 6-year-old shooting a teacher in Virginia. You had multiple mass shootings in California. You had the police beating death in Memphis, and then you had in Baltimore, 7 people shot over the weekend. I think two of them died. So lots and lots of violent acts. And before we get into an in-depth discussion on any one of those individual ones, I think, overall, these things all have something in common, which is that we've seen them before. It's the same rotating types of things. Some of the details change, but the essence of what it is exactly the same. And it seems like we keep, mankind keeps trying to come up with solutions to these problems that aren't really solutions. They're just sort of like, because there's really no man-made solution for these acts. I mean, there's nothing you can do. There's no law you can put in place. There's no sort of things you can threaten people with that would make people not do these violent things. If there were, they wouldn't do them. I mean, we keep seeing them over and over and over and over again. It seems like it's like a clear-cut example of man resting against flesh and blood, right? We're trying to fix flesh. We're trying to fix people. We're trying to fix the people's behavior. We're trying to make people do this and not that. And it seemed to me that would never work, or it has not worked, and it's not going to work.
Well, because we're using law, right? I mean, and when we have a law unto ourselves. That's what, I mean, just speaking scripturally, we have a law in our own members and within our flesh, right? And so what you have is that we're actually trying to use opposing laws. Like, we're going to use laws to work against the law that is actually in our nature. And what you find with man is that we're responding to our nature. That's it. This is the nature of man. Man is warlike. Man is lawless by nature. And when you see this, if we don't respond, there's got to be something higher than what we're operating, because there's no laws that you would. What additional law can you make to have stopped any of what you just mentioned? There's no. You know, when you look at so many of these shootings, the guns were bought legally. You know, they were stored in the right place. You know, so nothing. You can't stop the depraved mind. You can't stop a mind that's influenced by this world. So as you have children, we are just shocked by the things that they're able to do, but we should be equally as shocked by the influences that they're around at such an early age. So if we just bathe them in violence from an early age, we just haven't seen it sprout until 11. We haven't seen it sprout until 13. So we got used to seeing this problem happening in the 6th grade. You know, so we look and say, well, I mean, it's a shame, but he's 12. So, yeah, it's about the time that you would pick up an AK-47. So we've gotten kind of used to it. So the fact that the ages are just getting less, it's just like, well, yeah, we're just exposing them more to the poison at a much earlier age. Pornography at an earlier age. So if you have a group of 7-year-olds that go out and rape and gang rape, we're equally as shocked by a group of 13-year-olds, right? It should be shocking that, like, oh, yeah, with more technology, it's in their faces. It's in their cartoons. So are we shocked now that there's going to be violence and lasciviousness and hypersexuality now at 6 and 7? We should really be shocked, because it's just all over our world. We just are pouring poison in our drinking water and then saying, somebody threw up. You know, should you be shocked since you poured all that dioxin in the water? So this is the spewing that we're getting here all over our nation and all over the world comes from the poison that's been poured in to us by all manner of things.
Yeah. Let's let's talk about some of these incidents individually. Let's look at a clip and then we'll chat about it.
The nation stunned earlier this month when Newport News, Virginia police responded to Rich Neck Elementary School for a 6-year-old who'd opened fire. The family now revealing in a statement to ABC News, our son suffers from an acute disability and was under a care plan at the school that included his mother or father attending school with him and accompanying him to class every day. The week of the shooting was the first week when we were not in class with him. We will regret our absence on this day for the rest of our lives. Police say the first grader took his mother's legally purchased 9mm handgun from home and fired one round at 25-year-old Abigail Zwerner as she taught the elementary students. The family telling ABC News they have been cooperating with local and federal law enforcement, adding that the firearm our son accessed was secured. Police still investigating how the 6-year-old got a hold of the gun, and questions mounting after school leaders told parents they got a tip that the student had a weapon, even searched his backpack, but didn't find the firearm before Zwerner was shot.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. I'm throwing the call link in the comments now in case somebody wants to doing this, but first of all, the 6-year-old sister teacher could have easily shot his parents. Like, apparently they said the gun was secure, but it couldn't have been. If a 6-year-old got it and took it to school And I believe that when you have a weapon, you're supposed to store the weapon and the ammunition separately. So
Right.
either if that wasn't done, or he knew what the weapon and ammunition wasn't, it was
Right.
able to load the weapon. And then, there's a lot of layers to this, but what they're basically telling us is that a 6-year-old with an acute disability had access to a firearm and the ammunition. He also knew how to unlock, point, and fire the weapon, which means at some point, an adult taught a 6-year-old with an acute disability how to load, point, and fire a gun. I mean, that's what happened. And then somehow he takes the gun to school and is able to elude all manner of adults. Right? He's threatening classmates with the gun, but no one can find the gun. It's not in his backpack. It's not here. They don't take him out of school. I mean,
Right.
there's so many failures of adults, really, that it's just too many to count.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to know what the acute disability is. Even that having parents that are going to shadow him in school
Every day.
every single day,
Yeah.
and that what kind of a disability can that be that he would need his parents in the classroom with him every single day, to such an extent that he's in there with other children? I think that there's some, I don't know about that situation, so it's hard to speak on that. But yeah, this is a failure on multiple levels, because you'd have to wonder how he could know how to take the clip and put it in and put one in the chamber, right? I mean, all the things that you need to do to make the gun operational, and then to take it off of safety. And, all of those things are really hard to really believe that he could just do on his own without having any instruction whatsoever.
Right.
But, and I don't know what that disability is that would allow, because I can't imagine that the disability was such that his thinking was so off, yet he's in a classroom with other students that don't have, because this is not a special needs school, right? This is a regular
regular school, regular elementary school. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know what? I mean, I think there are a lot of failures here, but I'm wondering, is this something that I don't know, can we avoid this? Is this something that could be avoided? I mean, obviously you store the gun and you put a combination lock so that, that's possible. But I mean, other than that, is this something that could really have been avoided, do you think?
I think you could. I mean, why does a 6-year-old need to know you have a gun? He clearly knew you had it, and he knew where it was, and he knew how to get it. Why? Why are you teaching any 6-year-old acute disability? Why are you teaching any 6-year-old how to handle a 9mm handgun?
Right. I agree.
What exactly is the point of that? Why do they need to know how to do that? And so, like I said, it's all fun and games, but he could have just as easily shot them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. He could have shot more than just the teacher. He could have shot the students. This is tragic, but this really could have been much, much worse. This again kind of speaks to the culture that we have here, in the culture of this country. We love guns. And I suspect that maybe that I don't know how he could have known. Maybe there's some showing off that was going on there. Maybe even from a safety standpoint. I couldn't imagine saying, well, listen, if there's somebody comes in here, hey, first grader, here's where the gun is. So if he comes and I'll go up front, you take him from the back. I couldn't imagine a need that's there. But I suspect that something has had to have been done for him to know how to put that all together, because it's just way above the mindset of a 6-year-old. Absolutely.
It's way above what they would normally even be thinking about doing. And I mean, so again, I mean, it's we talked about this last episode about parental guidance and parents being on guard and on alert and making sure that the things that their children are exposed to or have exposure to are acceptable. And so I think that this is just another example, and they're not the only parents. We know they're not the only parents of an elementary school child that has guns in the house and has so they're not alone. It's just that in this particular case, the child decided to take the weapon to school and to fire at a specific person. So apparently he had the gun all day. He showed it to some of his classmates. He threatened them that if they told anybody. So he was able to elude adults, a 6-year-old, all day
Right.
with this weapon. He didn't accidentally discharge, didn't shoot himself. And then at the end of the day, he was able to draw the weapon from somewhere and point and shoot the teacher.
Right.
I mean,
That's pretty serious.
That's
pretty
a
serious.
lot.
But you know what? I mean, if you don't get parental instruction, right? You're getting instruction. I mean, you think about some of the video games that are there. Some of those video games, especially some of the shooting games,
first person shooter.
they have actual, they've got clips that, I've got to reload, right? So where you take the gun and drop the clip out, take another clip, put it back in, and all of those things are in certain video games. Kids, just playing around, they're able to find those. You look at some of the guns, some of the toys that are out there. They're much more realistic. So, I saw, like a mounted anti-tank Nerf gun, right? I've seen some that are so realistic, and that are in the toy section where you do have everything you would normally need with the gun. So if you're just playing with it and you take the clip out, put the clip back in, all of those things are just practice for this moment. And those aren't things that are restricted where, if a 6-year-old is back there at the target, there's nothing, that's a toy. So that's in their area. And the more realistic we are with cars, the more realistic we are with video games, we're also getting more realistic with guns and bow and arrows and all of those kind of things. So war weapons are part of the child's tool. This Christmas coming up, there are people who are going to get simulated war weapons, and there'll be grown-ups who will say, let me see that 9mm. Wow, that looks just like my 9mm. We saw, I think it's Tamir Rice, or a young man who actually pointed a fake gun at a cop and got shot. I believe that was in Cleveland, Ohio, if I have that right. But again, the police looked and said, that replica looked just like an actual gun. And all the things that you're seeing in rap videos, everything that kids are going to be able to see, they're watching on Instagram, they're watching on TikTok, real guns. I've got this gun. Here's the name of the gun. It's got 44 in the clip. Let me show you the clip. So kids are getting a tutorial on how to get locked and loaded from an early age. And so parents, in some ways, there's something that can happen here with parents, but I think that with the internet, it's so much larger now that things, with kids that in first and second grade have phones.
Yeah.
We're in a whole different world. So with phones, you're sitting there and you're thinking like, stop passing notes. No more spitballs. These aren't spitballs. This is like, give me your phone and stop looking at TikTok. Right? These are spitballs. This is like, wait a minute. How do you have access to Pornhub? Whoa, wait a minute. Is that you should be looking at that rap video. Why are you looking at Cardi B? How are you looking at Megan Thee Stallion? So hypersexuality, anger, videos about their favorite gangster, all of those things are no longer like, put your hands over your eyes. You're 6. No, 6-year-olds are twerking and they're doing their own videos, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at a 6-year-old, we're thinking, oh, soft little kid. No, we're really making these little small minds. We're pouring things in there that are going to trigger actions that, just like this. They're going to trigger, here's my reaction to you, teacher, shoot you. Here's my reaction to this girl that I like, that who didn't talk to me. I'm going to kill her. Here's my reaction to that cute little girl with the braids that I like. I'm going to try to rape her. And I don't know how to even do it, but I'm going to try to do what I saw in that video the other night. That nothing can stop me from, because it's on HBO. It's streaming. There's nothing, because it's on Showtime. Nothing can stop it. He stayed up so late last night. What do you think he was watching last night? Because the Shoot 'em Up Bang Bang and more clips and the music that's made it so cool for the guy to empty his clip with just one hand and picked it up with another. And it looks so cool. Why would these kids not want that? We've made murder so cool.
Yeah.
We've made debauchery, man, so cool. We made gang rape so cool. We made violence. If you don't like it, then you know what to do. Put 2 in his dome. We made that cool. That's not like mass murder. Shooting up the block is not like, we don't look at that as like mass shooting. That's gangster. And gangster has become cool. And that's dangerous. And what you see here It's just a prelude to the new day.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if the parents are held accountable anyway, because a 6-year-old cannot be held accountable for any criminal act. I think you have to be
Right. No.
at least 11.
No, yep.
Yeah, to suffer any consequences. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to hold the parents.
I don't think they will. I mean, I think that I don't think they're going to be able, because at least right now they're not. There's no charges, right? Because I mean,
correct.
Where the parents need to have the gun is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've shown it is actually stored.
Right.
It seems like it's stored correctly. Right. We have a mind here that is really, really the key. I think that the difference is, here's a 6-year-old in 1975. If you had put that clip here and put the gun here, that kid would never be able to figure that out. That kid in 1995 would have liked it, would have played around with it, but would not have been able to figure it out. Would have, and they would have been shocked if they had put the clip in and like, how do I get this out of here? But the kid today is looking for the way to get the clip in, because we have to take care of business. That the music, the entertainment, the culture has said, you have to take care of business. You're weak if you let her talk to you like that. And that's as a child. So I'm watching videos all the time of the kids, in different areas of the country. And I'm looking at, and I'm wondering, I don't know how teachers do it today. I mean, I've just seen videos, and it's just like, these kids are talking violent, and the things that they're saying, here's what I'll do. Matter of fact, teacher, here's what you do. There's so many sexual references. I'm inviting you to do this, teacher. That it's strange that you would have kids at that age who are able to think about that and talk like that. But that's because that's what they're around. They're around big boy stuff. They're listening to big boy things. So they're going to eventually try to do big boy things with the kid's mind. And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
We're setting ourselves up for some real issues. You're talking about elementary school kids knowing how to handle weapons, and because they don't, I mean, at that age you don't even have the ability to really fully appreciate your actions. So it's like,
right.
It's almost like a game to a 6-year-old.
Well, I mean, in Vietnam they were talking. I remember hearing interviews about people who were in Vietnam, and they were talking about all the dangers that they faced, in war, and they were just talking about in Afghanistan the same. But one of the greatest dangers was from children. Their natural desire to help a child, to hug a child, to give a child something, and only to find out sergeants and lieutenants saying, you better not get off this truck. Don't help that kid. Why? Because you're just new here, but that same child will blow themselves up. Do they understand that? No, that same child will shoot you, will ask you for candy, but they're rigged. That's the mentality that we looked at and said, oh, that's over there. That was Vietnam. That's Afghanistan. Well, it's coming to a theater near us. It's here now.
Yeah, in some cases it's already here.
And that same war mentality that turned those kids into small terrorists that were able to be used, walking right alongside adults, volunteering. I'll be the one to stick the weapon into the ground. That's what we have today. It's just in America now, and we're having kids that are volunteering and saying, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll smoke them." That's a shame.
Oh, for sure. Man, that's man.
I would love to have some callers call in and some people come in. I would love to hear what they have to say, because I think that there may be some nuances, some other sides of this that maybe we aren't seeing, because this just looks tragic, and I don't think that anybody's going to take away from the tragedy. But I suspect that there may be another angle that we're missing to be able to kind of help somebody else with this issue.
We have a comment.
Awesome.
Chavez Walker says, although this 6-year-old child will not be held accountable criminally, I'm sure he will face a lifetime of court-ordered therapy to attempt to understand his mind.
I don't know. You're not going to be able to order it for life.
Maybe. I don't know. I think there's going to be an investigation of some kind. I know that people at the school itself have been disciplined for their failure to act to the threats and to the heads up, but I'm not sure what you can order a 6-year-old to do in terms of anything, in terms of therapy, in terms of any kind of record.
There are no actions that we can take
legally. I'm not sure.
There are no legal actions that can be taken.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when the kid is not in the when you can't be in the system, you can't be in the system. The system is what orders all of those things. And when when the thing is, if you can't put a 3-year-old in the system, you can't put a 4-year-old in the system, you can't order anything either, because guess what? They're not in the system. Only when you're in the system can all these court order things actually occur.
And it'd be interesting to see. I'm not sure they're going to announce it per se, but it'd be interesting to see what, if anything, the parents do with regard to this. Do they see this as some kind of aberrant behavior, or something they could have prevented, or something that they had a hand in that they need to undo? It'd be interesting to ask them that. I mean, clearly they want to maintain their privacy and anonymity.
Sure.
I get that. You're not going to see any pictures of this kid because he's a minor, so that's that's out. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they handle it, because I mean, as a parent, I would be like, he could have shot anyone. I mean, again, including me. Like, middle of the night, you could have woke up to 9mm in your face.
Right. Yeah,
right?
But I mean, I think that what you have is, I mean, since the system, just they're already saying, like, you can't enter the juvenile system until a certain age.
You're right.
And there's an understanding that a 6-year-old simply can't understand the consequences of their action. So and even in terms of therapy, you can only be talking about a past action that once you're 7, 8, 10. Yeah, I did that when I was 6, but that's still, there's no connection to the therapy because you don't have any accountability. I was a kid. Can you give me therapy for what I did at 6 years old today? No, I was a kid.
No.
I don't.
Right.
No. So it kind of puts it now back squarely on the parents. What are the parents now going to do? Because they're going to be responsible for understanding the type of therapy that this child's going to need because of what they did, the damage to this kid. There's going to be some damage, and I don't think the damage is like, let's make sure that this kid never hurts anybody else in society. I think the damage is going to be something's going on with the kid. Let's make sure this child isn't further damaged himself by whatever this acute disability that's there, but also the influences that may be there.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they would know. I mean, I'm guessing that if they hadn't already, they're going through his room and looking to see what could have, if they don't already know, seeing what's going on here. It's back on. It was always on them, but now it's like on like with red flashing lights, right? Like,
absolutely,
you guys better get on. So yeah, a little different now. We have another comment from Willie Mae. Wait a minute, that's not it.
The Chavez.
That's Chavez. There we go. Willie Mae. Oftentimes, the kids of all ages are watching the same violent shows that their parents are and listening to the same music, like parents like children. Yeah, I think, in a lot of ways, the days are over where parents sort of shielded their kids from adult things that they indulge in, knowing that this isn't for kids. They shouldn't be listening. They shouldn't be seeing this. And I think nowadays, I think parents are a little too lax with the things that are coming in, because it's coming in from everywhere. Like, you assume because it's on this channel, well, this channel's good,
right?
This program is good, or this is good. But if you're not on your post and paying attention to the things that are coming in, there are other things, within these shows on these channels and whatnot that are not for kids. That kids should not be ingesting. They should not be seeing. They should not be hearing.
Right.
So that that's facts. I mean, that's just true. And I think because one of the tricks that we've fallen for in this society is that, well, it's on network TV at 8:00. I mean, so it's prime time, or at a certain point we were going up. At a certain point, this is adult television.
Right.
This is not for kids. I guess it was past 8 or past 9 o'clock. This is no longer kids television. This is the time when the kids turn the TV off and do something else. Right nowadays, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I mean, the time means not. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
These things are in front of them. So those days are gone when you can just say, "Oh, it's just it's whatever." It's like, no, you got to be more vigilant, way more vigilant. And not seeing it.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of vigilance, but there's some. I mean, in some ways, as technology it's grown, there's some of this that I think that parents can't really stop. There's some of this that really, really can't be stopped. Simply because, and in the day you can't watch this, right? So at 8 o'clock, I grew up like that, so we had that. But nothing stops you from, you didn't have a place where you could go and circumvent that, right? There was no computer upstairs. I'll watch it on my phone. I'll look at the tablet, right? So the same kids snuck down and like, where's Dad's box of Penthouse, and right, where are the Playboys, right? So we see that in movies, in American Pie. We recognize that was also there. So what you have is clearly parents trying to do what they have to do, but the nature of children, right? The nature of children. Here's what we've done. We fueled that nature by giving them ways to circumvent order.
Okay.
But right, we've kind of technology has kind of helped, like cut that off. So like when you could cut the TV off and say, all right, go to bed. There was nothing, you know. I remember like I even had a TV in my room, and it was a situation where it was like, you know, like I'll put it on, but I'll turn the volume off. I'm listening to hear them coming down the hallway, right? So because the nature of children is such, right? So but in the end of the day, the white noise came on at a certain time, so nothing I could do. Not now. Not now. It's on 24/7. If they're asleep, what do you think kids are like? That thing they said we couldn't watch. We saved it. Yeah, we're going to watch it. So technology is kind of working against parenting today.
Absolutely. Because to your point, you can't turn it off. I mean, as a parent, it's always somewhere. You can't turn it off. I mean, but you got to do something. I mean, you got to equip your kids in some ways to you know, to be able to deal with the world in which kids are exposed to adult things, themes, material, whatever, all the time.
Right.
Some people. I mean, watching a football game, almost every, you know, watching sporting event, almost every commercial is somehow sexualized.
Right.
Do this if you want to get women. Do this if you want to be cool.
Right.
Do this if you want to get. So even that, the kids are trying to watch the game, and it's just even there, you're flooded with images of sexuality and all that kind of stuff. So it's.
So here's the fallout. This is what we have is the fallout. Right. This is what this is the fallout. If this freedom that we want, the technology, this is the fallout. And I think that's what we're getting. Like there's no way to work this in such a way that it can work against the parent and then expect the parents to be able to do it all. Parents are going to be shocked as well. I think as we watch this, more and more parents are saying, we tried to do all of those same things. I had no idea that was in him. Because if you, the Columbines killers are built slowly over time. Movie by movie, record by record, right? Video by video. This young man, the little kid, we build them slowly, just one movie at a time. You know, one beer commercial at a time. You can't buy toothpaste without somebody brushing their teeth with a tube top on, right? You associate beer and cars and women together. Why? Because we put beer and cars and women together, right? Absolutely. And the coolest guys with the coolest car have those women. What do you think is going to happen when you hypersexualize a 6-year-old? What if he liked her and the teacher and she turned him down? Like she just was just an adult. We never know what the problem is going to be. This kid has an acute dysfunction, right? Somewhere, some acute disability. But there are plenty of kids out there that would do this exact same thing that are simply because their brains are so overloaded with poison that what is the fallout? That we just going to have a bad kid? We just kind of thought, well, you know what? I mean, it would just have a kid who just got his brain filled with a whole bunch of stuff. No, you can't fill it with garbage and not expect that there's going to be some explosions happening.
Right.
There's going to be some little gangsters that are being built that we're going to be shocked. It's like, he's 8-year-old and he's got like 3 bodies. Yeah, we shouldn't be shocked when you make getting bodies cool when his homeboy and his OGs are 13. You know, you 13, 14-year-old OG. Yeah, I've been out here for a minute now. You know, that's crazy. But that's really where it is. I mean, I was listening to somebody talk today and it was like, yeah, you know what I mean? My big homie said, and it was like, you're big homie. And it was like, yeah, he's 26. That's the big homie? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Which means that that we started this thing young. We were killing since young. So when you look at the King Vaughns out there are lots of rappers that I've got this number of bodies, but when did you start? 12, 13, 14, first shooting, 13, and it's no longer shocking. So if you get your first shooting at 13, you get your first body at 12, where were you at 6? You were just a ticking time bomb that just didn't go off. You may have cursed that teacher out. You were that bad kid. You just didn't have a gun at the time. But if we put a gun in that same kid's hand, he would have done it. And that's without the acute problem.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. We got more comments.
Uh-oh.
It says, I think this action will get him into the system. He will not be allowed to do something that big and just return home as if nothing happened. I'm sure he himself was affected in some way. Definitely he was affected. I just don't know. I mean, I think what I've seen, I'm not a lawyer, so what I've seen is by law, you cannot impose any legal sanctions on a 6-year-old for any criminal act.
None.
I don't know if, because there's always exceptions to everything, right? They could, if they wanted to, they could do something, I guess, to get him, so to speak. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
There's no law. You have to have a law, right? There's no law. There's nothing in this country that allows you to even put a 6-year-old in a juvenile juvenile detention, simply because it's already agreed that a 6-year-old cannot actually form they don't have the formulation in their brain to be able to understand the consequences. There's an agreement that 6-year-olds don't even understand the consequence of death. So put him in the system would be punishment. Like, can we punish a 6-year-old? We've been here before. We've been here with murders. We've been here and there are other kids who have gone home. And as hard as it is to believe, that's still a baby. We can't get to the point where we put babies in the system.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what action someone tries to take, whether it's at the state level, whether the parents try to do something, because I don't know. Like,
there's nothing that the state can do. The state just doesn't have a law. You need a law in order. The law actually prohibits you from doing
that's true.
That right
now.
Right? I mean, like, if a 5-year-old it just throws a rock, it's just sitting on the bridge with their friends, and they throw a rock and drop a rock, and it hits someone over the head. Who's putting a 5-year-old like, all right, let's see you in chains? We'd be outraged because we realize he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. We can actually see malice here, because that's what detention is for. This is not malicious. Yeah. This is as ignorant as you can get. This is undeveloped as you could get. Take it back to 4, just 2 years earlier. Would we honestly, if a 4-year-old had done it, would we literally, like, where are you going to lock him up with who?
Yeah, it's
who are his peers?
And I think people would like to do something with them, but you're right. There's no law, no legal basis they can stand on to do anything to them. That's my understanding. That there's just no law.
Because that's punitive, right? We need to do something for him, but we also can't force that. The idea that you did that, our natural nature is to force you to get it. Listen, I'm going to put some good stuff in your mouth, and we just that's our nature, right? Mm-hmm. This kid needs parenting. Yeah. Right? If there was some parenting missing, then the answer isn't punitive. Okay, right. You know what? You need help. Oh, well, then let's add some force to that too. Let's put some pepper on that thing. No, you know what? The reality is, I think we are really at a point where we have to use some compassion here and realize that we have a parent here. I mean, a person who was shot, a teacher who was shot. Yeah. But we need some compassion here, because this is a kid who was as damaged by what they did as the teacher is damaged by what happened to him. This child is going to be damaged.
Yeah, for sure. More comments. Chavez followed up with, not criminal system, but he will need therapy.
He will need therapy, but I don't think you can mandate it. My thing is, you're right. He certainly will need therapy, but I don't think he's at a position where the state can mandate it. Once the state says there's no law to have you in our system, the state can't come now and mandate anything because you're not in the system. I'm not in the system. So the state can't come and tell me to do something. Right, because I'm not in the system. There's no legal system that come in and say, listen, I didn't like the way you were driving the other day. You're gonna take some defensive driving courses. I didn't get a ticket. They can't just walk in and just tell me because they didn't like it. So the reality is that once they say we can't, our hands are tied here. The truth is, we have to kind of look and say, okay, is this a system problem?
Yeah.
Is that what we want? Do we want the government to rush in and fix this, or are these parents and these are other people who love this child and a community that needs to rally together to help this child not to be antisocial, to make sure this child never gets ostracized and marginalized and cast out from the society? We need to rally around this kid and to make sure this child realizes, hey, we forgive you. You're a baby. We forgive you for what you did. We don't want any more damage to happen. This teacher is fine, and we're going to rally around her too. But we have to rally around this kid to make sure that we try to salvage a child and not turn this child into an experiment.
No, it's well said. I mean, the parents have to get on it.
Yeah.
Let's see another comment from Clarice Minor. We also have the issue of allowing electronics to raise children instead of parents raising them, mostly because parents are too busy accomplishing goals in other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? I mean, I think that the reality is what happens though when you get great parents who are trying their best? Listen, I think one of the things that we have in this society is that there's some things that are going to happen. There's some negative things that are going to happen because of the world we live in, because of the society we live in. And our natural fallback is, where are the parents? I suspect you got some parents that are doing everything they can. You can't fight the poison. Their parents, I'm sure, that are doing everything they can, and they're struggling in the same area with, I try to feed my kids right, but why are they sick? You can't fight the poison in the water. You can't fight the poison in the air. And we have that poison all around us. And what was prophesied that was going to happen is actually happening. And you can't fight it. And the parents don't have to be bad parents. I think we also have a situation where we have a lot of young parents. So with young parents, as they're bopping to the violence and dancing to the violence and the sexuality, here's the thing. They don't have any idea that, what's the problem with this new Drake song as I'm listening, as I'm with my child in the back, right? They grow up with it. They're in the car seat, sucking their thumb. They don't know what's going on, but they're hearing shake it and move it, do it. And then they grow up with it. But that 17-year-old mother has no idea that that's the rhythm of their life, that they're now, that's the music for their growing up. Shake it, do it, shake it, shake it, shake it. They have no idea. So as they're watching mom dance and she's gyrating as she's cooking, they don't know that, because I'm going to imitate my mother. I'm going to imitate my dad, right? So when he's dancing and thugging it and talking about shooting him and he got his hands up in the air, and as he's just dancing. He doesn't know that he's like bang, 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 bang. He has no idea that my little boy is looking at me, but I'm 18 too. And so that problem of having so many young parents, we're looking and saying, but the parents, we got to remember, so many of these parents are really kids too. And that's a problem.
Yeah. But they don't know.
That's a problem. In the end of the day, we look and say, well, we're going to rally around them and we're going to continue to love them. But do we think there would be no consequences for being a kid, having a kid?
Yeah,
I'm just growing out of my gun love. Right, I'm growing out of my love for violence. Right, yeah, I'm ready to settle down. I'm 36. I know, but for those last 15 years, you hadn't, and this is good. You're at a great stage, but you had this kid so young. So while you were growing and going through those stages, they were growing up watching you, not stable. They watched you when you liked violence. Now you want to turn it off? It's too late.
It's a little too late. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, we have a couple more comments. Let's see. Yeah, William May Hill says the instruction given to parents to train them up in the way that they should go is still was cut off, but I'm guessing she said the way, which absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing else for us to do, really. I mean, the world is not going to change, and the only recourse you have as a parent is to train up your own kids.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the. Gotta do that. Clarice says, when they go to JD and tell he's 18, what type of adult would he be in the world? Juvenile detention. Okay. Go to juvenile detention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the answer. That's not, yeah. Just locking them up until that's not always the answer either. I know people like to lean to that when you have a youth offender when they're especially in their early teens, just lock them up. That's that's not the solution. That might get them out of your sight, but that does not in any way, shape, form, or fashion fix the underlying issues that we have that lead to this in the first place.
Right. Well,
You know,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's returning, right? I think it's what Pastor Hill kind of talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that train a child up in the way they should go, and when they're older, won't depart from it, is still the way. Absolutely. And the call that's always been there is go back to the way. Go back to the way. We're looking and saying, we've got to tweak this and fix this. And the answer is like, no. If you're going north and the direction that you need to go is south, you can't tweak north. There's not, what if I go a little bit west? Well, that's northwest. But or if I go east, that's northeast. But that's still not south. So I don't care what you do, no matter how you work it, unless we go back to the old way, we're sunk. And we're going further and further away from it in the hopes that somehow we'll make a turn and things will get better. And we just don't realize what it's like. Repentance is like a 180 move. You got to really stop going north and look and say, you know what? It's going to take me a while to get back on track, but I got to start. I got to go back south. I'm off. I can't get there from here. And until we as a country realize like we can't get to that dream from here. There's no way we'll ever get to that dream walking in the direction that we're walking with total freedom. You do whatever you want to do.
Right. Yeah.
There's no way with no fences around our lives. You could do this. We'll have the consequences. So we're just lamenting the consequences. Can't believe they beat that guy like that. Man, I can't believe they shot this many people. How could we ever be shocked with a society that is bent in the direction of anarchy? We just saw it, right? We saw it with the violence that happened, over George Floyd, and we saw it. The cities were burned up. Now, again, kind of shocked that there's no, how come Memphis isn't burning? I wonder.
Good question. I think part of it was just the way that they handled it. They handled it a little differently, but they fired the officers right away. They charged them within days. I think that was part of that was designed to, we got this. You guys don't have to riot.
Right.
It's under control. They're gonna be punished. Usually you see some kind of administrative action, like they're on desk duty or they've been suspended without pay or something else. But usually you don't see charges, like criminal charges within a day or two. You usually don't see that. Can't remember ever seeing it with the police officers, like charged the next day. Like that's fast. I think that was designed to sort of let's not have riots.
Right. Let's not burn the city down.
Yeah, let's not do that. We have another comment. Pamela Maziar says, hey, if the child had an acute disability that required he had 24-hour supervision and the school system did not see to it that someone was there for him, then the failure is also on the negligence of the school system, which is why several of them have already been relieved of their duties in their command, because it was a failure of the school system on multiple levels.
Right.
We got multiple complaints during the day. This kid's threatening people with a gun. We think he has a gun. And the administrator was like, we searched his bag, didn't find it. So, what can we do? It was sort of like a very laissez, like almost like they didn't believe. Like it's hard to believe, right? It's hard to believe that a 6-year-old would do that. So it's hard to wrap your mind around that. But this is one where, we don't learn. Anything is possible. So you have to work. You got to think, okay, worst case scenario, he's got a weapon. You got to act like the worst case is going to happen, not saying he's 6 years old. Come on. He didn't even know how to fire a gun. And little do you know that he does know how to fire a gun. So somebody just
but I do think that there's worst case scenarios that you just can't think of, right? Here's a 4-year-old, here's a 3-year-old together. They're brother and sister. He has an issue with anger, but like you're not thinking, and he's going to strangle his sister, right? I think that there are things that we look that don't follow a natural straight line, and I think that's what makes here's what you do, right? You do this thing. I think we kind of sprinkle in the ingredients, but we don't really know when you put those together what they'll do. You sprinkle in a little violence.
From your human mind, exactly right.
From the human mind.
So if we rely on what we know and what we
Right.
see, what we hear, and what we put together, then you never see it, right? You'll never get. That's why you got to have discernment. That's why you got to be prayed up. That's why you have to rely on something other than I think, or this has never happened before. Like, okay, I mean, that's why you got to go beyond, like to your point, beyond the other stuff, because you're right. On some level, our human mind can't get there. We can't get all the way there. Like, no, that's not gonna happen. Because most people, when they were 6, were like, I could barely spell gun, let alone use one. There's no way does that. I mean, so yes, so there's a certain amount of disconnect that can only be connected in the spiritual. Can't be connected in that.
And I'm not sure I think in the spiritual realm, I think that even in the spiritual realm, we're kind of, I don't know that we're going to even know as in the spiritual realm, because if we see in part, right, we know in part. I think that even in the spirit, we're shocked. We're going to be shocked by the world that we're living in. You know, the Bible says that if the Lord doesn't even hasten his return, even the very elect will be deceived.
Right.
I think that we're living in a world right now where the unexpected, like, I know the devil is busy, right? I know the enemy can, masquerade himself in so many ways, but I think we're all going to have from this year on, times when we look and say, I never expected anybody to do that. He didn't show any of that with his mother. You know, they're like, I mean, he loved her. How could he have done that? I think we're living in a world where the evil is hidden in mass, and it comes out in ways and places that we just never expected. The guy who kills himself. I don't care how much discernment. There are places where we're all kind of having our head cocked because the Lord is really kind of exposing to us. There's an evil you guys haven't seen. Remember, as he's allowing more things to happen, it's like coronavirus. There are things that we have never experienced in humanity. We have never seen that before. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm prepared for tetanus. I'm prepared for all kinds. I never thought of coronavirus, and now we're going to look at things and we say, I was prepared for that. I never expected that person with their mother. Never expected that kind of action. And they didn't show any signs whatsoever. And nobody could discern it. That's what makes the world scary. Because, just like we're going into that church and that Dylan Roof.
Yeah.
He went into a church.
Right. Yep.
He went into a church. I'm sure there's discernment in that church.
Yeah.
Who could have known? I'm sure that people say they should have been praying. They could have known.
Right.
No. We're in a position where there are people going to die. And they will never have an inkling. It'll be my best friend.
That's sad but true. We got another comment. Pam Major says, children having children, both having an immature mindset. So sad that the parent needs training.
Yes. Listen, you can't just mess this wheel up, right? You can't mess the formula. You can't just go into a place where it says, this is how you make concrete. And just decide to add a couple other things, never realizing, like, if you put that with concrete, that turns into acid. You add water to that compound right there. That's why it says no water. And we just sprinkle a little bit of water, and we're wondering, like, well, how come people are dying? Well, if you actually add that to it, it becomes now toxic. And what we don't realize is, like, put that in that brain, and it becomes toxic. They can't bear it. They can't handle it. Add sex to that brain, and you're going to produce a monster. And a monster who will get straight A's. A monster who will be the captain of the football team. And when it turns out he's raped, 50 women will sit back and say, he got a scholarship to Stanford. Yeah, that formula was messed up. And you did the formula for a monster. You thought you were doing the formula for a nice young man. But you sprinkled in some things that turned that nice young man into a monster. And none of us ever knew that just that small porn addiction turned into that.
Yeah, I mean, because you sort of, you think that, it may have some issues, but you don't think it's going to go to the point of violence, to the point where they would do something criminal. You don't see that part.
That's just frontal nudity on TV. That's no big deal.
Yeah.
Right, but we don't realize, like, are they supposed to be seeing that? It's like, well, no, but once you say no, they're not supposed to. You sprinkle that into that brain, And now we're just playing Russian roulette and saying, okay, what's going to happen there? You may get a player, right? And we look and say, oh, he's a player. That's a playboy. And you'll realize, like, when you get down to the 7, 8 kids that he had by the 5 different babies' mamas, we don't even realize the drama in that family, what the damage that's been done with those 7 kids, and the people that hate this group. And he treated them, and he didn't even talk to us. The hatred that had just been spawned by Mr. Player, that nobody realized that was damaging. He was going to damage whole families and grandkids that he will never meet are going to be damaged and are going to have a hatred of a guy they never met because he just was developed as a little player. And we never curbed that. We never thought like, whoa, stop that. 6 girlfriends, you know, they coming in, back door, front door. We kind of think it's cool. And we'll realize you sprinkle that in there and now you got a little player, but that's damaging.
Yeah, I mean, we see that. We see that in things like that too often. And you're right. Nothing good can come from that. There's no way that can end good. Like that, at the very least, that person's going to have issues in relationships and how to treat people, you know, the opposite sex. I mean, at the minimum, because they don't value them. They don't have any respect there. So yeah, you're definitely going to have some issues one way or the other. We are actually over time, debating whether or not we want to get to this last clip and talk about the Memphis police beating. We can just spend a few minutes. Let's watch the clip and then we'll just spend a few minutes on that, on what happened in Memphis.
If we want to label this thing, it's black on black crime. How about that when 5 black officers, a black perpetrator? It's the kind of black on black violence that we see perpetrated every single day in this country, in black communities across the country.
Cops are desperate for more tactical training in de-escalation and stress control, so they're not put in a position that they feel they need to use lethal force. And instead, they're being given implicit bias training, diversity training, complete waste of money.
Looked like gang violence to me. It looked like what young black men do when they're supervised by a single black woman. And that's what they got going on in the Memphis Police Department. They've elected or put some black woman in charge of the police force. And we're getting the same kind of chaos and disunity and violence that we see in a lot of these cities that are run by single mothers.
Yeah, so I hadn't seen it. This is one that you had brought to my attention. I'd just love to get your thoughts on some of the things that we heard there.
You know, I think that when you look at that, you can really see. I mean, again, we're kind of polarized. You can see how polarized we are as a nation. How there's one thing that's right in front of us, and that we see it from a different perspective. But you know what? I mean, I think that again, this is really a symbol of racism, and what we're seeing is racism actually happening, even though it's black on black, right? Even though it's black on black, it doesn't seem like it's racism. But this is racism because it comes from this idea of self-hatred. Those men who were talking there, and 2 of them were black, did not recognize that, like, this is not black on black crime because those are police officers. So this was not gang violence because there was no other gang other than the blue gang. So, I mean, without admitting, you know, that there's a gang there, he actually gives us this understanding that, like, yeah, police have become a gang. It is like gang violence, but this racism that's there, these police officers are a product of that same racism. And racism isn't just white people who hate black people. It is also the racism that comes from being in America and black people picking up that very same hatred for each other. You know, it's as dangerous. You know, NWA had a line and in one of their raps years ago. You know, black police showing out for the white cop, right? And so this idea of black police officers even sometimes being more dangerous for black men is because the idea that we are dangerous by nature is not just, you know, something that white people have perpetrated and they think it. We also now, because of racism in America, have been poisoned by that same thinking. And we also, at a greater level, have picked it up and thought and looked at ourselves as dangerous. We don't trust each other. We don't care for each other. We don't really love each other. So it's not strange that would happen with our brother there, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, I think people always think of racism as like pure hatred.
Yes.
Racism can just be, and I don't care. It could be just like, I don't value your life as much as I value mine. It doesn't require pure hate. It's like you're not really that valuable. I think what you saw that night was less the hatred angle and just more like you're not that valuable.
Right.
In terms of, like you said, they're black on black crime, but there's a perpetrator. Like, who's the perpetrator? I mean, other than the police, like this guy was alleged of them, but he wasn't as far as we know, even if he was, but he wasn't like committing a crime. Like, he wasn't doing holding up a convenience store or something. Like, it's a traffic stop. There's no perpetrator. Right. Like, if you speed, you're like, it's the perpetrator. It's not a perpetrator. He's the guy going too fast. I mean, that level of sort of disregard for his life because, well, he was doing this or he was doing that or he was, whatever the case, wasn't following their directions. When it comes to the training piece of it, here's the thing. There's no training that you could give someone or you should need to give a police officer that says, whatever you do, don't repeatedly punch somebody in the face when they're handcuffed.
Right.
Why would that be part of any training? Don't kick them when they're laying on the ground. Don't hit them with a baton in the back 5 times after you've already got. What training would that come under? I mean, but you saw like the sort of the racial threat throughout the whole thing. Like, they're getting diversity training, but they're not getting this other kind of training. Like, are you crazy? Like, why would you need any training other than just one day at the academy that you would know not to do that? Before you get to the academy, that's wrong. That's
well,
wrong.
You know what? I think it's only because we don't realize the depth and how intertwined that feeling is in us. You would need training in order to treat all dogs equally because we have a natural thought that pit bulls are more dangerous, right? So a nice pit bull, it would take longer for me to be convinced that he's okay. You bring a collie up, you bring a Labrador retriever and say, just let him sniff your hand, right? Even if I don't like dogs, I could put my hand out and let a Labrador retriever sniff my hand. But if there's a pit bull who comes in, never bitten anybody, I'm already so trained that pit bulls are dangerous that you would have to really coax me. And my actions are going to be very defensive. Anything that pit bull does, I'm going to look and say, whoa, he was just looking at me kind of strange. That looked like a death stare. Well, guess what? We have become the pit bulls. And when you're trained in your society, not in the academy, but when you're from birth, black and white, trained, that guy's dangerous, right? When we tell our children, be careful. We also have that same thing in us where it's like, well, what's the picture of the guy I need to be careful of? We've been kind of trained that way. Black and white have been trained that way to see this black guy as the dangerous one. Police academies for years, in their gun training, the silhouettes were black, right? The robber was black. The person who had the baby in their hand was never like a black lady. It was a new shooter. It's like, oh, see, you shot the innocent victim. But the robber, the guy, he was a black man. So we're kind of trained in racism in America to think like that. So there's not a shock that when they saw him, that they could see the potential for a pit bull.
True. I mean, I did. Yeah. And if you were facing a pit bull, there would be a certain level of heightened aggression and anger. And like, I got to take this dog out.
Before he gets me, I got to get it.
Gets me. Absolutely. So I think that there's that because at some point you can tell they're not really trying to effect an arrest. They're trying to dish out punishment. I mean, but it's out of anger. It's not like it even went beyond at some point. I'm just ticked off.
Yeah,
you have ruined my evening, and so we're going to teach you a lesson. Very similar to the way that Chauvin kneeled on George Floyd. That was payback. Like, you want to get in the car? I got something for you. Like, it was punitive. Like, I'm street justice. But I think you saw with a former Sheriff Clark was the first speaker, and then Jason Whitlock. I think you see an attempt to try to explain the inexplicable. So the only way to do it is to blame somebody. Blame single mothers, blame the gangs, blame other people, because you really can't. There's really no explanation for their action other than they were angry. The same way that Cain killed Abel, he was angry. There was nothing else. It wasn't racial. It wasn't like he did something to him. Like, I'm angry. and my anger has gotten the best of me here.
Right.
And we know from scripture that anger and sin go hand in hand. That's why it says be angry but sin not. They're right there. So these guys took matters into their own hands in a way that cannot be explained rationally. We're trying to give a rational explanation that, well, maybe if he had done this and he could have done that, or you should make sure you do this. It's like, no. Did stop 5 police officers can't affect an arrest of one guy,
right?
Without beating him to death. That had nothing to do with single mothers. That's not single mothers. That's not having a female police chief who is not a single mother. She's married.
Right.
So it's just these attempts to do that. Just actually, it's insulting. But
man, they should be run out of town, tarred and feathered. They should be run out of town on the rail, without a doubt. I mean, even equate the idea of like, and like she's a single mother running the police department.
The police department.
This is the chief of police.
The chief.
The minute, and that's how we see it. It's a single mother syndrome. There's somebody to blame,
right?
As opposed to looking and saying there's a problem within those guys. There's a problem within those guys, but there's also a problem in the system. It's a problem with how we have been viewed. It's a problem. So, the years of how we've been viewed in media, the years of how we've been portrayed. There's no way you're going to have the 70s and 80s and all. I mean, like every criminal, right? That was the part that many African Americans got to play in movies, right? I got to play the criminal. I got to play the heavy. You can't have an American cinema that would just showcase the criminal, the Huggy Bear, the coolest guy. But like even I don't know if you remember Starsky and Hutch. I don't know if you remember.
Sure do.
The Huggy Bear characters that were there, but like they were always hemmed up in a corner. Huggy Bear sees, there they go, and he's running, and there's one who catches him in the alley. They're always hemming him up, and you're gonna give me some information, Huggy, right? Always. As illegal as that was, it was something, and that wasn't about race. That was about power. But that was also how we see the criminal. And if a black man is viewed as a criminal, he's viewed as a criminal not just by white men, but by Asians, by blacks, by anybody. And when you look at what happened with George Floyd, look at the number of people, the number of races that were circled around him. Asians, blacks, whites, all a part of killing that man. Because he was a pit bull.
He's a pit bull, and it's just incredible in both cases. You had multiple, I guess in George Floyd, there was 4. In this case, at least 5, 6, 7.
Right.
Nobody said, yo, that's enough. We think we got him. Like, nobody said that. Like, they're all just sort of, the next guy comes in, he's amping it up more.
But isn't that what you do with pit bulls, right? I mean, don't they have the history of like, man, they don't let go. I mean, if they ever get their
once they clamp on, they don't let go.
So when you see a pit bull, right, how many people have to come out? 2 people are hitting him on the side, right? There's somebody that's putting something in his jaw to try to unclench his jaw. There's another person that's trying to. So it takes 4 or 5 to get a pit bull, right? That's
an adult.
Thing. That's what if the black man is the pit bull in America.
Crazy.
And unfortunately, you got to bring out all the stops for him. A Karen can get out there and throw coffee in your face and curse you out. There's no 6, 7 cars for her. I get out the car. I'm not getting out the car. And like, nobody's calling 6, 7 cars. You get an older black man who says, I made a U-turn. I didn't know where I was going. Hold on, I may need backup here. There's pit bull, and unfortunately, that's what we see. These guys are super strong. We need a lot more backup. They're different from us, just like that same pit bull. And unfortunately, the same reputation that pit bulls have in America, where we're afraid of them by nature, guess what? We're having that same conversation in America because America has its own pit bull, and that's the African American man.
Yeah, just afraid. Man, we got some more comments. Kyrie says, blaming single moms. I didn't see that video. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
They're reaching.
Definitely. Kyrie says, what a shame that we look at our own people that way. It's definitely a shame. Like nobody's thinks that single motherhood is like a great thing. Like a mother who's single, it'd be better in a 2-parent house. We know that. That's just common sense. But to denigrate all single mothers,
right?
And just say, well, it's single black women, they're ruining all of our cities. Like they are. I mean, single black women are running every city. I mean, there's problems in every city. I mean, we started this segment with like these things are happening all over the country. So
Right.
you got to stop with the gangs, and it looked like to me like it was a gang fight. A gang fight? No. Let's see. Willie May says, great analogy of the pit bull. So true. Yeah, pit bull is a good analogy because if people see that pit bull head, I mean, they that square head, you right away they start backing up like, where's my bat? Like, this is a pit bull. Like, this is not a joke. And they will. I mean, even if the pit bull wasn't necessarily attacking them, you can see somebody going at a pit bull with deadly force just because it's a pit bull. I'm not taking any chances. I'm not gonna wait for him to come and bite me.
Right.
I'm gonna take him out where he is. I see he may be sleeping, but it's still a pit bull.
Right.
Right.
Listen, I got a guy that walks down my street every day, and he's got like there's a guy who's got, and I've watched him take his dog off leash, but it's like he's like a collie, a little small miniature collie, and it's a cute dog. It's so cool seeing him. He's dog's like right next to him. Man, I saw a guy take a pit bull off a leash, and it just infuriated me. And immediately when I saw it, I could imagine, like, man, what if Jewel pulls up here and this pit bull's out here and he attacks her? What if one of the grandkids? I never thought that with the collie.
The cop, yep.
Now, I don't know anything about this pit bull. This could be the nicest dog. Could be an old dog, like can barely walk. It didn't matter. As soon as I saw him, I envisioned him committing an atrocity against my family. Absolutely. And I was prepared. When I got out, I was prepared too. You know what? He's walking. Guess what? If he comes over here, I got something for him. That, I suspect, is the same mentality that
absolutely
that we have to look and say, okay, here's another kid over here. He's off leash. It's good. Not him.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely know that happens. Let's see. Clarice is
on the roll.
Yeah, I saw the release. When you see it from the street corners, it looked like a block party after the beating. They left that man sitting on the ground, passing out after kicking him several times in the head and beating him with the baton. It was awful. I cried. Yeah, I mean, again, you when you watch it, you think, you just wonder what could be going through their head, and it's just pure rage and pure anger.
Sure.
Because clearly they're not thinking. Remember when the issue of police violence was going to be solved with body cams? As soon as we get them all with body cams,
right,
it's going to stop happening. So now we know that just means you have multiple angles in the same beating. Right. Nothing stops them. Like, do you think they didn't know they had body cams on? And they know they're running. They did it anyway.
Right.
That level of sort of rage is crazy. But that's what, again, if Pitbull comes up, you on that same level of like aggression. Like, I'm giving the sledgehammer is not big enough. I'm the biggest thing I can find to take out this thing. So,
and I do it openly because everybody's going to understand it.
Everyone, it's a pit bull. Everyone's going to be on my side. It's
so
a pit bull.
What are you talking about? Pit bull, I'm not even worried about your Ring camera.
Right.
Take a video. You saw me do what I needed to do against a dangerous dog. I helped you. I'm that cop, right? I'm protecting and serving. I think those cops, in some ways, with their frustrations, with their thoughts about many of the communities that they police, cops develop a certain hatred against the very people that they protect and serve.
But to protect and serve.
And some of that's the system.
Yeah.
Some of that's the system. Your job is to put people in jail, right? They kind of think their job is to keep people in jail. So as they put people in jail and they see them out that very same night, they feel like they're a failure. You tell people that pit bull has been terrorizing the neighborhood. Man, what happens when you see that same pit bull brought back to his owner the same night? He bit 2 kids. Mm-hmm. He's back. Man, aren't you gunning for the pit bull from that point on?
Absolutely. Let's see. Another comment. Willie May Hill says, question, why do these guys call on their mothers when they are beaten, but never their fathers? That's a good question. I would suppose it's because they understand that their father they don't want help. They want comfort. They want to be somehow soothed and sort of mothered in a sense. calling for my father's not going to do that. I don't know. I'm speculating that's the reason.
Well, sure. I suspect that there's some gut reactions that are there. Mothers have protected. Fathers do a job, but they're generally not the ones who are going to go down to the school when you're sick. They're generally not the ones that have stayed home or been there with you. So mothers have a role that is really, really deep and essential that fathers simply don't have. That fathers simply do not, by nature. That there's a nurturing role that a mother has. So when you're sick, if both of them are in the house and both of them are in the same room, when you throw up, you say, "Mom, I'm sick," right? You would, as a child, why? Because she does that. He plays another role, but he doesn't play that role. And even when a father plays that role, mothers usually come right behind him because fathers don't do that as well.
Right. But then we have to hear the wife complain about it.
Right. Yeah, you should have been. Yeah, but you didn't want me. I don't make the
Let's see. We have more comments. Let's go. Chavez says, "We have had women raising children since we've been fighting wars. There was no excuse for this intentional deplorable action." Now, excellent point. Excellent point. Women are single mothers for lots of reasons. It's not always, some kind of they're depraved or some kind of crazy thing. Sometimes they've been widowed or something else happened. But you're right. During those times, there was no sort of it wasn't negative.
Right.
They were sort of like, oh, we got to look after the single mothers, make sure that they're cool with everything they need. We're well past that. We're nowhere near, as a society. We don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, we should be applauding the women who stayed in there and raised their children.
100%. They did the hard work.
Absolutely.
They did the hard work for sure. And again, it was really disappointing to see, a black man, denigrate black mothers like that, rather than sort of, giving them props and sort of lifting them up,
right.
And saying, we, looking to help them where help is needed. We're going to blame them for the world's ills. As I can't. Clarice says, "Couldn't wait for this week's episode. I knew you guys were going to talk about this. I was waiting. I should be reading my textbook. This is better."
Better get on those studies, Clarice. No, I'm glad that you're. I'm glad you're here. We needed to hear from you as well.
Yeah.
We needed to hear these comments because I think that we have to raise our voices and really try to understand at the same time what's going on. This is not just a matter of like tearing some buildings down, but we really need to get a grasp on what's really going on, because the poison of racism and power in our country is just running rampant, and it's not black. It's not just white on black. This poison has messed us all up. Anybody who is in America, has been in America for any period of time, is going to be affected by racism. And the damage of racism, we're seeing it right here, that it brings about hatred. It brings about a level of power over people. And that's what you see with these guys. I've learned to hate myself. And that self-hatred spews over into people who look just like them.
Yeah, you basically beat yourself to death.
You beat yourself up. That's exactly what really happened. We just saw each of those guys beating themselves up. That's exactly what racism wants to do, right? It wants you to beat yourself up. And when I can't beat you, I want you to take over. And that's exactly what's happened. There's no more slavery. There's no more Jim Crow. I can't, the KKK doesn't have the same sway. So I can't beat you. But here's what racism does. You now have taken over, you beat yourself. So, just like with, sexism. Listen, I can't pimp you out. Right? That's over. I can't do that anymore. I can't force you to get out there and get on the pole. So you know what you've done? You take it on yourself, right? I'm my own pimp. I got my own OnlyFans page. I pimp my own self out now. I'm not stripping because he made me do it. I'm stripping because I want to. And you don't realize the damage is already done.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. We have one last comment, and then we can wrap it up. William A. Hill says, "Truth be told, we also often look at the black man as pit bulls." 100% true. 100% true.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Until we recognize that's also us. That the truth of the matter is that we are Brother Nichols on the ground. We are also those 5 cops.
Yep.
Right. Well, there's a part of us in there that have said, man, if I was there, if he had made me run that far, when I caught him, here's what I would do. Right. And we don't realize we have some of that in us. You know, that I would beat him under the gym. Boy, I wish, give me 5 minutes with him. We don't realize that the same people that we look and say, but you're supposed to protect and serve. We fantasize that very same way that they, man, after committing that, I wouldn't keep the law either. We have to really look and really say, you know, what we see in front of us is an indictment of ourselves. Not just an indictment of 5 or 7 different officers, EMTs. We also would look and say, I'd withhold something from that pit bull too. Because I don't see him as human either. And that's the shade. It's in us. And we've got to get cleansed. Not just those guys, but as we watch this, we really need to get cleansed. Those the brothers who were making those stupid statements, Mr. Cowboy Hat, they need a pit bull shower too.
No, absolutely. No, that's a good place to end it, because we cleansing is the right word, right? Cleansing is the right word. So love that. Man, great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of layers to this and a lot of different ways to sort of get at it. But hopefully, hopefully people got something out of this.
Yes.
I certainly enjoyed, this conversation.
All those comments.
Yeah, the comments were great. I mean, having the comments really drives the conversation in different ways and get different perspectives, because I only have one perspective, mine.
Right,
so
right.
Yours. So we have two. We have 2 whole perspectives. So it's great when people come in with comments and just help us out. It just makes it that much better. So we
absolutely
appreciate everyone who jumped on and joined in and made comments, because like I said, it was thoroughly enjoyable. These, I think these conversations are needed. Like we're trying to have conversations that are needful, but also so that we can get to some things beyond what you're just going to see on the news and on the media. Like, let's really have a real talk about this stuff, for real. I think tonight we did that.
Absolutely.
Every week, but definitely enjoyed this conversation. And again, thank everyone for joining us. And hopefully we'll be back next week. Willie May says, thanks, excellent episode. Okay, thank you, Willie May. We appreciate all your comments and your input. Very much appreciated, very insightful. So see you guys next week at 7:00 Wednesday. We'll be back with some more topics, and we'll dig right in and have another insightful, sort of deep conversation about the things that are going on in our world. So we'll see you next week.
Back at it like a smack at it.
Yeah, good night. Good night. And God bless.
All right, God bless.